Hi, good evening, everyone. Welcome back. So yesterday we discussed about how to create the virtual machine and what are the options it was showing, right? So this is a virtual machine service, and here we created one server yesterday. I stopped it once we finished the class. So whenever we create a virtual machine, it was asking many questions. So we discussed each and every option, whatever it was asking. So today we'll discuss about uh, availability zone and availability set. Okay, we'll start with that, and then again we'll go back and power on the machine, and we'll try to connect the server, and we'll see what is inside that server and few more options of the VM. Okay, so this topic we are going to discuss now, availability zone and availability set. So whenever you are creating a VMs, if you are expecting high availability for your VMs, then you can select availability zone option. But when you select availability zone option, the cost will be a bit high because they are providing you the high availability. So how you are going to achieve the high availability? So whatever the region you are selecting, whatever the region you are selecting, that particular, if this is a region like East US region, okay, so it contains multiple data centers. So this contains 3 availability zones. Then what are the VMs you are creating? You can create one VM here, one VM here, one VM here. In this way, you can create your virtual machines, whether it may be 3 or 5 or 10. What are the virtual machines? 10 means it's maybe not independent virtual machines, right? Altogether, they might be serving some service, maybe one application, one website, or one API, one application. So altogether, maybe it's 3, 5, 10. So you can choose among these 3 availability zones. Okay, so this way, what you are going to achieve, multiple redundancy, like for example, multiple failures, where this inside this availability zone, again you are going to have a racks, and inside this rack you will have a physical server. So this way physical servers will be there, and inside this physical server we are going to create a virtual machine. Means whatever the virtual machine we are creating, it will get the resources from this physical server. Okay, so here, whenever if there is a problem with this physical server, wherever this machine got created, this VM might impacted. Or if this rack is having any problem, see, rack means it is not a normal rack. It contains, like, from the rack itself, power supply, networking, cooling, everything will be supplied to these physical servers. So all these physical servers which are placed inside this rack will get power supply, networking, storage, and cooling, everything from the rack. So due to any problem, if the rack is also having problem, then all these machines will get impacted, or maybe some machines might get impacted because of this rack. So if that is also problem, then still your VM gets impacted. Or else, if your complete availability zone, the data center is having problem, then still you have a redundancy. So your application is running in a different availability zone. So this way you can achieve more high availability. So this is providing by the Azure. So it's up to you how you are creating or managing your application as an high availability. This is about the availability zones. So if you select your VMs in the availability zone, while creating it, um, it will ask you the region and East US, and availability options. If you select availability zone, then in which availability zone you want to create, you need to select. So let's say, to run an application you need 5 servers altogether. So all the 5 servers you need to create 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like this. Okay, 2 here, 2 here, 1 here. This way you can create. So if any of the availability zone is having problem, still your front end application or website, whatever it is, it is going to be always up and running. Now we'll talk about availability set. So availability set, if I select availability set, okay. If we talk about availability set, based on your input, you might want to consider creating this user the virtual machine skill set. Why it is not? Okay. So here I selected availability options, availability set, and it is showing there are no existing availability set is available. So they provided an option called create new. If you click on create new, it is showing some options, create availability set. So what is this availability set? Availability set means it is not going to be a multiple availability zone. You are telling to Azure that I don't want my applications should be on multiple availability zones. One availability is in okay with me, but I'm selecting availability set. So if you select this, then what kind of high availability is providing by the Azure? So here you are going to take only single data center, means single availability zone for availability set. Why? Because availability zone, when you select, you are deploying your application in multiple data centers, multiple availability zones. But when you select availability set, which means it is going to be deployed all your machines on the single data center, not on multiple data centers. Okay. But what I can achieve, what kind of high availability I can achieve is, so availability set is for majorly for the rack and the server concept. So if anything happens to rack or if anything happens to the server, then there will be a high availability. Okay. So, but if there is a problem with this availability zone, like if this is an AZ1, and if any problem with the availability zone, then all your servers will be down. But if you're okay with that, if you are not considering this, okay, you don't want it, then you can go with the availability set option. So what you are going to get, if anything happens to the rack and if anything happens to the physical server where your VMs gets created, then you are going to get high availability. But how it will be going to happen in the backend, that we'll discuss now. Okay. So here, if you see, when it is asking to create availability set, group 2 or more VMs in an availability set to ensure that at least one is available during planned or unplanned maintenance events. Here, always remember fault domain. Okay. What is fault domain? Availability set. Okay. Fault domain, update domain. So fault domain means rack here, and update domain means server, the physical server which is placed inside the rack. So fault domain is rack and update domain is server. So here by default, fault domain is showing 2 value, update domain is showing as a value 5 by default. So what does it mean? Fault domain means, why it is named as a fault domain? Because here, as I mentioned, this rack is going to give the power supply to the physical servers. This rack contains a networking concept. Everything through this rack only, networking is also configured to this physical servers, and cooling is also supplied with the help of this rack only. So if anything faulty occurs in any of these things like power supply, storage, network, then it is going to impact this servers. So that's why this named it as a fault domain. Okay. And update domain, we call it as a server here. Why it is server? Why? Because inside this server, as I mentioned in the previous sessions, it is running with the hypervisor. The Hyper-V Microsoft virtualization software is going to run, and on top of that, whenever we are trying to create VMs, it is helping us to create VM from this server. So that hypervisor needs to be updated. Like in a traditional data center, usually Windows admin, Linux admin used to take care. Linux admin will update the Linux patches. Windows team will update the Windows patches. Same way, your hypervisor also need to be patched. So backend, whenever Microsoft team plans any, okay, planned maintenance, then this server might not work at that time. Okay, so that's why this is called as an update domain. Some software updates like network card drivers updates, or maybe some other hardware updates, hardware related software updates it requires, then they are going to do some planned maintenance activities. During that time, the physical server may not work properly. So that's why these servers are named as an update domain. So now this value, if you see, fault domain is 2, update domain is by default, these are the values. It means what? If this is an, now we talk about single data center only, because as I mentioned, if you are selecting availability set means it is single data center only. You are telling that if I create 10 VMs, all the 10 VMs will be on the same data center only. Okay. So now here AZ1, and my requirement is 5 servers. 5 servers run same application, and in future you'll come to know in the networking classes, it will connect a load balancer, and load balancer will send traffic to all the 5 machines. So that in the later classes we'll discuss. But requirement is 5 servers run the same application. We need to create it. So now what we are going to do? So here uh, multiple racks will be there. We don't know in the data center like how many racks backend are available. Assume like multiple racks are available. Okay, so inside this you have servers, multiple physical servers are available. Let's take this one. Now it is mentioned, let's say if I create this one test set, if I create with this name and 2 and 5 means 2 fault domains, 5 update domains, means what happens? So here whenever I'm creating first mission, like here I'm going to ask a question. I mentioned that single data center, US East is having 3 data centers. So where will be that, how it is going to be decided which data center it will be? So whatever the first VM you are going to create, that VM automatically it will place in some data center, whichever data center is having more capacity. Based upon that backend it will check, it will create this VM on specific data center. Maybe it's a AZ1 or AZ2 or AZ3. And next time onwards, whenever you are creating the remaining 4 servers, and if you select this availability set, whatever I'm creating now here, then all those remaining 4 servers will also go and create in the same availability zone. Okay, so it's not like compulsory it will go and create in the AZ1 or availability zone 2 or 3. It can be anything. So now fault domain 2 means it will take, this is a rack 1 and this is a rack 2 and this is a rack 3 and rack 4. Now whenever I'm creating VM1, and it will create inside this machine. Okay, rack 1, it's not like compulsory it will go to the rack 1 only. Just we are example we are taking as a rack 1, it can go to rack 4, rack 3, rack 2, anywhere. So here it will go and create this VM, first VM, and second VM it will go and create here. When we create third VM, then again it will come and create here only. It will not go here. Why? Because we mentioned fault domain 2 means 2 racks only we selected. So what are the servers we are creating? They will go and create only on 2 racks. Now fourth machine if I create, it will be on this machine. This, okay. So this way it is going to create, and fifth machine it will go and create here. Okay, but now if you observe, we mentioned update domains 5 means 5 servers, but here in a rack it is using only 3, right? 1 2 3, and here it used only 2. So what you need to do, when you have servers are less, then you should change it to this 3. Unnecessary you are wasting 2 servers, right? They are going to charge you more. So what you need to do, based upon your server count, you need to decide how many servers you want, how many racks you want. Based on that you need to decide. So this way it is going to be allocated. So what happens, and don't think that whichever the racks are near to the beside racks, it is going to be deployed on the same racks. This rack may be somewhere else in another corner, rack one may be in the some other corner. There it is not going to check whether VM1 is creating in rack 1, then whichever the another rack is nearby to the rack 1, VM2 also should be created there. No, it is not going to think in that way. Only it will think whichever rack is available, it will select 2 racks, and inside the 2 racks it will create. So here what you are going to get, high availability from rack. Why? Because if the rack is down, still your application is up and running because another rack is also available, and inside this 2 VMs are also running. And if server is also having problem, still your application is up and running fine. Okay, so this way it is going to provide you high availability in the availability zone, in one availability zone. Okay, but if something happens to this complete availability zone, you can't do anything. Your complete application will be down. Got it? So we'll take an example, like one more example, so that easily you can also understand it, right? Like one more example we'll take. We mentioned same fault domain is 2, and update domain as a value as 5. We created this one, and now our requirement is 10 VMs. 10 VMs serve the same application. So what is going to happen now? Rack 1, rack 2, and rack 3. Just taking additional rack also, but we use only 2 racks. And here we have server 1, server 2, server 3, server 4, server 5. Why? Because 5 servers. We selected update domain 5 means our 10 VMs should be on 5 servers. 5 servers means in rack 1 5 servers, rack 2 5 servers. Okay, so now whenever I'm creating VM1, what it will do, VM01 it will create here, and VM02 it will create here, and same way here it will create VM03 and VM04. It will not go to another rack, it will be in the 2 racks only, and VM05 and VM06, VM07, VM08, VM09, VM0, VM10. This way it is going to be created. So in this rack on 5 servers, 5 VMs will get created. In this rack, 5 VMs. Okay. On 5 physical servers, it will get created. So this way it is going to be created. If you mention here fault domain 3, then what happens? Then it will create VM03 here, sorry, 2 here, and 3 will be here, and 4 here, and 5 here, and 6 will be here, VM06, and 7 here, 8, 9, and it will be like 10. So here no VMs, and here also no VM. So in this scenario, what you need to do? You need to change this to 5 to 4. Why? Because 4 servers are enough to accommodate your 10 servers. So you are not hosting any server, any VMs inside this one. So this way it is going to accommodate. So always you need to calculate how many servers you want. Based on that, how much availability you are expecting, whether rack you are expecting more rack availability or maybe servers availability. Based on that calculation you need to do. Otherwise, if it unnecessary wasting, then they will charge you more. Okay, so this way you are going to get availability of your application from the fault of any fault in the rack or any fault in the servers, or any updates are going to happen in the servers. Then you can achieve high availability for your application. But there is no high availability if the complete availability zone itself is down. Understood? So this is about the difference between availability set and the availability zone. In most of the interviews, they will ask you this question. You need to explain in detail. So better you practice it, like practice in the sense there is no lab. Okay, you need to understand, you need to write a notes on it, whatever you understand, whether how you are going to calculate it correct or not. So that if interviewer asks you, you can explain easily, right? So guys, whatever the questions you want to ask, keep it as a separate note. At the end of the session, I'm going to clear your doubts. So don't ping questions in between. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, at last I'll clear the doubts. Okay. So now what we are going to do, let's go and power on the machine which we created yesterday. And so as I mentioned again, once again, I'll go back there to make it clear. Here East US, oh, not this one, East US test availability set, and then here create new. If I select 2 and 4 here and name test a set, then okay. So now whatever the requirement I have 10 servers, whenever I'm creating those 10 servers, let's say this is VM01. So always when I come back and create VM02, then I should come here, select availability set, and I should select that specific availability set. Was it not created or what? So whatever the availability set it gets created, you need to select all the 10 machines with that availability set, so that it will follow this method. In this way, it will get created here in whichever racks it will created. It will select 2 racks and it will go and create there. Okay. So you need to create that availability set and place all your 10 servers in this one. And another set of application will be there. Some another 10 servers serving different kind of application. For that, create new availability set, and whatever the requirement is there, you can provide the requirement fault domain, update domain, and the remaining 10 servers you can place in this availability set whenever you are creating all those 10 servers. That way you can create it. So let me go back and start the virtual machine. This is a virtual machine. Start. And here you can see overview connect. to connect to this test machine, if it is a Windows machine, it will give you one file, RDP file. With the help of that RDP file, you can able to connect. If it is a Linux machine, you can do the SSH. And in networking concept, we'll discuss bash and server. It's like a gem server. And here, sir, it will give some overview. Whenever you want to view any information, under which resource group your machine got created, under which subscription your machine is created, all that information will be visible here. And this is a public IP. With the help of this public IP, we can connect to the server. And what is the size of your server? And here below you can see some information, what kind of operating system it is, whether what kind of architecture, whatever we selected, the size, the external disk which we attached, all this information is available. And monitoring. So monitoring is also health events, Azure outages. As of now, no outages. Capabilities. These many policies, Azure policies, depend upon our requirement. We can update this one. And coming to the top, start and restart. You know that, and stop the virtual machine. And capture is to create image of this machine. Delete, refresh. And I never tried this open in mobile option. Maybe this is a new feature. And coming, first we'll connect to the machine. Okay, first we'll connect to the machine. We'll take the public IP and then go to the RDP. In your search bar, you can search RDP and give the IP here and connect. And whatever the credentials we created during the VM creation, provide the same credentials. And it is an admin credentials we are providing. So provide that credentials. So it got created and you can see immediately I could able to log in. Why? Because I selected 2 CPUs, 4 GB RAM. So for Windows machines, minimum we need enough memory to access it as soon as possible. If you provide only 1 GB of RAM, it will take a lot of time to load. So nothing we can see here. Only one thing I would like to show you, uh, the disks which we attached. Okay, if you see here, uh, C drive which we selected yesterday while we are creating VM, OS disk, which is 127 GB OS disk which is attached. And I think I'll just go back to the disks here. I'll see whether what are the disk, data disk I attached it, right? That is not showing as of now. Okay, it is showing only the OS disk. This disk itself showing 127 GB. This data disk is not showing. So what we can do, go to the server manager, or else you can do this in the search bar also. Whenever you log into the Windows server operating system, automatically this window will open server manager, or else you can search in the search bar. So inside this, Srinivas Pennam, just now I took half an hour time to discuss about what is fault domain and update domain. So here in the tools option, we can go to the computer management and Windows masking can help your PC. And here we can go to the disk management and see here, whatever the D drive which we allocated, it was not created. Now when we go to the disk management, it is showing we need to format it and it is going to be created. So you must initialize a disk before logical disk manager can access it. So use the following partition style for the selected disks. The GPT partition style is not recognized by all previous version of Windows, but I feel MBR is good. Okay. So if I click OK, you can see this disk is unallocated. Means this complete disk is unallocated. Generally in our Windows laptops, if we have internal one disk 500 GB, we'll create multiple partitions from that one disk. But here two disks are available. Disk 0, we'll talk about disk 1 later. Disk 0, which we attached OS disk. Disk 2 is 4 GB data disk which we attached. Okay, this is separate hard disk and this is separate hard disk. Okay, so now you can create a partition like new simple volume, next full size, provide any alphabet here, next format this volume, NTFS file system, finish. So now this is also created. And if you go back and see here, e volume has been created. So this is one disk which we created OS disk, and this is data disk. Means any application stuff you want to store, you can store inside this data disk. It you can attach how many you want. Already we discussed yesterday. So now what is this temporary disk now? Temporary storage D drive, they are providing 8 GB. So this temporary disk, to understand it better, uh, um, like this is our region, Azure East US region, and let's take only one example. Like one means one availability zone, not about multiple availability zone, one availability zone, and inside that we'll talk about only one rack, and inside that you have multiple physical servers. So when I'm creating a virtual machine, portal.azure.com, and I created a VM with yesterday with some 2 CPUs and 4 GB RAM. Like we selected B series. So it will go back. B series means front end for us, B series. Back end, they might have some terminology, some specific server. So it will go to that server, assume this is this server, and it will give you the 2 CPUs and 4 GB of RAM. This is compute capacity. But what we have done, we also attached storage 127 GB OS disk and 4 GB data disk. Where we are getting this storage is not coming from this server. These physical servers provides only the CPU and RAM. So these are coming from the storage boxes. In real world, there will be like EMC storage, IBM storage, NetApp storage, different varieties of storages are available. So storage is coming from here. So Azure is creating some storage account backend, and whatever the disks they are allocating from this account, they are giving to us. So these are the disk which we created yesterday. But what is this temporary disk now? So this temporary disk, these physical servers will also contain some internal hard disks, whatever this physical hardware. So from that physical hard disk, we are getting some 8 GB of storage free. So this 8 GB temporary is coming from physical server, and these disks are coming from the premium SSD disks are coming from the external storage. Completely, this is a big storage box. I will show you. Same like the data centers. EMC. EMC was one of the famous storage when in the data centers we use. Okay. So if you see here, like it contains, this is one hard disk, this is one, these are empty boxes. Inside this hard disk will be there, high end SSD hard disk will be there. So like this, multiple boxes all together, big storage racks will be there. For storage also, there will be separate racks this way. You see, these are like all the storage will be inside this racks. So, these are called like, this is a good example, like this one. These all are hard disks. So big storage, because in real time, your physical, even though if it is a traditional data center, we are talking about this traditional data center, physical servers does not, it may contain some hardware, hard disk, but those hard disks we use it for the operating system. But database storage, application storage, externally we allocate storage to the physical servers. Same way here also, we are getting for our virtual machine storage from the external storage box. So this storage we are getting, if we want additional more disks also, we can able to provide it from here. But this 8 GB temporary storage which we are seeing here, this is, if you open it, there is a data loss warning readme file is there. If you open it, this is a temporary disk. Any data stored on this drive is subject to loss and there is no way to recover it. So please do not use this disk for storing any personal or application data. So any critical data, if you want to store, you should not store it here. Then why they are telling in this way? Because if something happens to this physical machine, wherever your virtual machine got resources, if this machine is having any problem, then Azure will give you 2 CPU, 4 GB of RAM from another server. But this 8 GB storage, whichever is available here, it will be deleted or crashed. So your data is not going to be retained. So that's the reason they are telling this is a temporary storage. Once if you lost, then you are not going to get back that data. So that's why they mentioned as a temporary storage they are providing. Why they are providing? Because the server contains internal storage. Instead of wasting, they are giving you for every VM. It may have some 1 terabyte of hard disk. For every VM from this machine, whatever the resources it is allocating for those VMs, it is dividing some portion and it is giving as an external, like extra drive, as a temporary drive. But if this physical machine crashed or having any problem, this data will be erased. But you will get 2 CPUs, 4 GB RAM automatically from another server, because as for the customer, they need to provide the service. They will give you your compute capacity, and they might give you new 8 GB from another server. But whatever the data was there, it will be storing in this physical server, and there will be no backup for that, and it will be erased. So that's why this is an temporary storage. You can put any unnecessary data, but don't put any critical data. Okay, so once you log in, as I formatted, next time also if you want to attach more data disks, like where is the VM? Here is a VM. Here I'm under the test server one, and under the disk section, and below you can see create and attach a new disk. If I create and attach a new disk, it is asking disk name, test disk 2. This is the name, and size 4. Okay. Here, where is this one? Save. Okay, it is going to create one more device, and same way again I need to go here, compute disk management, refresh. I'm going to get new device here. Okay, new device. Again, I got new device here. So this way you can allocate the device disks to the your Windows virtual machines. Understood? And diagnostics and solve problems. So for a VM, if you click on this diagnose and solve problems, explore the most common problems. It is loading actually. What happens whenever they started this cloud, lot of customers, they will be getting lot of tickets right? For facing some so and so issues, we are not able to connect this, we are not able to use this service. So by collecting all those incidents, they created this option, diagnose, self diagnose. Means before going to the Microsoft, we can resolve maximum issues by ourselves with this option. If still it is having any problem, then in the same VM options here, go down, and here support and troubleshooting, then you can go and contact the Azure. But maximum we can troubleshoot the issues from here itself. You are not able to connect, server is up but you cannot able to connect to the server, or public IP is not visible, or maybe server is not booting up, like this many kind of issues, all they are corrected, self explanatory, and we need to select each and every option, and we can diagnose it. It will show you the problem and we can fix it. Still issue is not resolved, then we can go to the Azure customer support. It is taking time to load because a lot of options are available over there. Just a second, I'm getting a call. And this run command option, for example, this is a Linux machine, and if you want to execute any commands, what we need to do, you need to go to log into the server and execute the commands from there, right? Instead of taking the IP, logging into the server, you can execute commands from here also, from the run command. And what I'll do in the meantime, I'll create one Linux machine and I'll try to show you how to connect to the Linux machine. Yesterday someone asked like connect to the Linux machine with PIM key. Okay. Okay. I'll go to the virtual machine. In the meantime, this will be loaded, I think. So now let's create one Linux machine also. Create Azure Virtual Machine and a free trial. Uh, I saw a message today. Someone mentioned like if we create a account with credit card, then only free trial is available. But I don't think so. For debit card also, free trial will be available. I don't know. Resource group. So I'm selecting resource group as a Galaxy test and a virtual machine, Linux VM, test Linux VM, and East US. And I don't want any availability options here. And image Ubuntu, I don't want to Ubuntu 20. We'll go for 18 version. Okay. I always prefer, I don't prefer latest versions because sometimes latest versions give some problem to connecting or accessing it. So proved version I will always prefer. And architecture and size, we don't want two CPUs. So I'll go with the 1 CPU and 1 GB RAM. Linux machine can able to connect this one. Select. And here again, you can create username and password and you can log into the server, or else you can select a SSH key also. So I'm selecting SSH key, and SSH key resource, generate a key pair name. So this is the first time we are creating, so we don't have any existing key pair. So we need to provide one name, Linux test server. This is the name we are providing. And remaining this is Linux server, so SSH port 22 we will use to connect to the server. And the disks also same. And this time OS disk automatically took 30 GB. For Windows it will take 127 GB. Why? Because it's by default expects minimum 30 GB to install the operating system. So for Linux, it doesn't require much storage, and premium disk we can take. I'm not attaching any additional disks here. And networking here, the same network which we created yesterday. Public IP, delete public IP. Okay, we'll select this one. And remaining all options we already discussed yesterday. So I'll just go and create it. $0.8168 INR. Very less price for Linux. So it is asking, we selected generate key pair, right? So it is asking to download it, download private key and create resource. So let's download it locally. But I think I don't have a mobile external tool. I need to download. So to connect to the Linux machines, we can use either putty tool or a mobile external tool or super putty tool. Multiple tools are available. Any of the tool we can use and we can connect. But always I prefer mobile external tool, which is very good. So I'll download that. I don't have that tool with me. You can search with MOBA Xterm. This is the tool. So download this. And free edition. So in the meantime, we'll see whether it is created. Yeah, Linux machine created very quickly. So I'll go to the virtual machines now. I'll see this is a test Linux VM is created and it is up and running. Open this. So here we got the public IP. With the help of public IP, we can able to connect. But before that, as I mentioned, we should have this tool with us. So show in folder. It's not yet downloaded. I think it's still downloading. So if you want to see the public IP of an machine, like in the networking tab, you can able to see the public IP and private IP. Private IP internally, like this Linux VM can able to connect to the Windows VM which we created if we are created in the same network. So this way in that network, whatever the VMs will create, they will communicate with the private network. They don't need any public IP. For us, we need public IP from my laptop to connect to this machine. You need public IP, or else internally, if they want to communicate each other, if they are in the same network, they will communicate with the private IP only. So here you can see in this VNet, it got created, and we'll talk about this NSGs later. And show in folder, extract here. So this is a tool. Putty tool will not allow you to log in with the .pem file. That's why I don't prefer it. It will expect only ppk file. So again, you need to convert this key .pem into the ppk. Instead of that, use this tool, session, and where it got downloaded, this one key also. Yeah, key is also in the download section only. Go to the SSH. Here, this MOBA extern not only to connect to the Linux machines, you can do telnet, RDP, VNC, multiple connections you can establish, but we use SSH to connect the Linux machine. And before that, I need to have the Linux server public IP, and this is a public IP. And specify username. I forgot what username I mentioned. What was the username? Anyone remembered what username I gave? Linux test user. Huh? Okay, I'll try. Linux test user. And here coming to the advanced SSH settings, use the private key and browse it. Go to the downloads and give the key, PEM file, allow access, accept. No supported authentication methods available. Refuse to server key. Sometimes this problem with this Ubuntu operating system, even I faced this earlier with the specific versions. Maybe this specific version is having some problem, so we can take another Ubuntu or another flavor of the Linux flavor and we can try it. So later on you guys can try just as I shown here. You just download the PEM file and attach it with this mobile system. You can able to connect it. So even last time also I faced the same issue with the Ubuntu images. When I selected the lower version like 16 version, then it was working. You can try with another versions like CentOS or Red Hat Linux while creating it. So already we discussed about this diagnostic, still it did not come. I don't know why it is taking time, this much of time. Diagnostics session expired. No, if the username is the problem, it will say authentication failed. Password or like username is incorrect, but it is saying server refused our key itself. Key itself is not correct. And these are the options we discussed during the time also, like now we got it. Okay, so this diagnostic and problems, if you see here, what kind of activities we are doing in this VM, it will show you. And also if you see, can't connect to VM, troubleshoot connectivity issues with an Azure VM. And if it is performance related issues, so self troubleshooting we can do, and it will do diagnostics and it will give you the solution how to fix it. So multiple things like what are the regular issues the clients or users will face, all those issues they collected and they provided self diagnostic over here, and we can solve our own issues whenever we are facing. So for simple reasons we should not go to the Azure and we can ask them. VM extension issues, issue with Azure encryption, can't start or stop VM, sizing problem when you are doing sizing from like you created 2 CPU, 4 GB RAM, you want to increase 4 CPU, 8 GB RAM, it is not happening. Many issues. What are the regular issues the customers will face? All together, they created in this diagnose. Let's say if I click on we can't connect to a VM. So tell us more about the problem you are facing. Configuration change affected connectivity, troubleshoot VM firewall, public IP issue. If I select public IP issue, resolve issues with virtual machine public IP addresses. So see it is doing diagnose. The diagnose did not detect any issues because there is no issue with the public IP. We can able to connect with the public IP to this Windows machine and there is no issue. That's why it's thrown. If really there is a problem, this self-diagnostic backend will run some scripts. If they find an issue, they will tell you the solution also. So this way you can do the self-diagnosis and troubleshooting also. Just a second, charging is over. Okay, so this is about today's session. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Tomorrow I will come up with the more information, more topics. Now I'll go to the chart and see. Can we use putty? Prasanna Kubar. Yeah, we can use putty also, but putty won't accept the .pem files. You need to convert this key .pem into the PPK format. Then only it will accept. Rajesh, I will post one message. Today admin team did not join so whoever want to discuss about uh, to everyone, okay, regarding recordings or anything, you can contact this admin team. They will get back to you. Which one using for prod environment? Prod, obviously they'll choose availability zone only. We know. Bikram Yadav, explain about SSH keys. Yeah, if possible tomorrow we'll discuss SSH keys. Keys means key pair creation, all these things we don't need. Only how to connect by using these keys we can use it. Okay. No Linux session separate will be there. Okay. I have my own Udemy course on Linux for developers, cloud engineers, DevOps, like mostly for DevOps and cloud engineers. They need minimum basic of Linux. So for that, I created one Udemy course. Okay. Or maybe on Monday, I will share it with you so that you can just go and buy it around for 300 rupees if you are interested. So that is enough. Here we are not teaching any Linux or Windows. I don't understand Pradeep Reddy. Can we bump up? Bump up means what? Increase or delete or remove? I don't understand the meaning of bump up. Rajesh, as I mentioned, you can contact the admin team. They will get back to you. Murlidhar, you can ping in the chat itself. Ashok Kumar, if you forgot password, how to recover? We can recover. Okay. For Windows, that should be actually it has to convert the PEM key to PPK. So that should be the problem. When we connect from Linux machine, we can directly connect with PEM key. Maybe I might give an wrong username. Again, I'll try it. Okay. That but once we log into Linux machine, we can't do anything there. Just to show that whether we can able to log in or not. Uh, Jay Kishore Reddy, I think I explained detailedly in the starting session itself what is the availability set and availability zone in detail explanation. Create VM with 100 OS, then later I want to increase OS disk to 128 GB to 512 GB. Is it possible without stopping VM? On fly, it is not possible because it is OS related. Data disk, I think it's possible. Yeah, it's previously it was not possible. Now it's anyhow unmanaged disk. It is possible. On fly, you can change it. Sairam or Sriram, Sairam. It seems Azure is easier than AWS. Azure and AWS both are almost same. Mm, In real time, we don't use this PEM file. Okay, we use passwords only. Can we deploy Win or Linux OS on a ephemeral disk? I never tried it on ephemeral disk, but first of all, in that ephemeral disk is temporary. We cannot do that because ephemeral is like a non-volatile. Whenever you restart, the data will be erased, but the OS needs should be like consistent, right? Then if the OS is deleted, then it cannot be created. Azure Administrator and Azure Cloud Engineer. Both are same. Azure Administrator is like see, in some companies they call it as associate engineer. In some companies they call it a senior administrator. The designations, the companies are different. The designation names also they will be different. So Azure Administration means while course learning you might be calling it as an Azure Administrator. But when company is calling you for a job, they might not mention it as an Azure Administrator. They might be calling Azure Cloud Engineer. It's just a names. That's it. Sayakil. Depend upon the client requirement, like application whoever coming to you to deploy their like launch their PMs, they will tell you whether they want their application should be more highly available or less highly available. In single zone also if it is okay for them, even because very rarely one complete data center will go down, but there are more chances of rack problem or server problems. So if that will be covered under availability set, so that is okay for some servers, maybe for development servers. For development servers you can choose availability set. Okay. And for production availability zone, because even though rarely if the data center goes down also, for development servers doesn't matter, it's not an emergency. Even though if it is down after 1 hour or 2 hours, after one day also if it is coming back, then you can use it later on also. Depends upon how critical it is. So Akir, course content, your static IP means, Navin, what do you mean by your static IP? There will be public IPs, manually you will create it, then it will become as a static IP. That static IP you can assign. Without public IP, you can connect with the domain name, DNS name. Here I will show you. I'll go to one machine and overview. Okay, as of now, DNS is not configured. That's why it is not showing here. You will get a DNS name here, lengthy DNS. In AWS by default, you will get it. One lengthy name. With that name, you can able to connect. Virtual machine scale set is a auto scaling. Whenever any VM is down, then if this VM is down, then automatically one more VM should be created immediately. If this is down, okay, this will be created in the same availability zone, and this will be up and running. This will be removed, and the traffic will send to this machine. To achieve this, we configure virtual machine scale set. Lakshmi, what is the difference between AWS? Three different vendors. This is like a Volkswagen, Benz, and BMW. Three different vendors are providing the cars with different little bit of features. That's it. So cloud is providing by multiple vendors. Among them, AWS is more popular because they started this business, and Azure is becoming famous, and GCP they started, so it will go to the third place. How to connect VM with private IP? Maybe next week you will come to know, Sairam, because when we start networking classes, at the time I will show you how to connect a VM with the private IP. Is there any option for network setup like AWS? Yeah, Varun Gaud. Next week onwards, full of networking concepts only. VNet, NSGs, ASGs, firewalls, VNet peering, basic load balancer, standard load balancer, application gateway. Like this, many topics are there continuously for 10 to 12 days. We talk about networking only. We'll have lot of network setups more than AWS. Yeah, elastic IP means here public IP. You can create public IP and you can attach to a VM, or by default it will give you a public IP if you select yes at the time of creating a VM. What is tomorrow's topic? Tomorrow's topic also mostly this virtual machine only. We'll end up with this virtual machine by tomorrow. Monday we'll jump to the networking sessions. Very, very important. I have created 3 VMs with the standard in one of the host pool. Is it able to change to see when you are asking this question, like I just want to know whether you tried it. You already told you created 3 VMs. One is standard SSD, HSD, and some other SSD, right? Did you try to change that? If you do, then what kind of issue you faced, or was it successful? That you need to tell. If you already tried it, right? If you did not try, if you this a question, then like we can just give a try it how it is possible. 6 VMs in one resource group and those 6 VMs not able to communicate with each other like ping. See, VMs is not related to maybe in resource group you have 6 VMs, but those 6 VMs where it got created in the same VNet or different VNet. If they are in the different VNet, they will not communicate each other. So you should make sure that you should not check whether they are in the same resource group or not. You should check whether they are in the same network or not. Yeah, you can change the public IP without restarting. I have not if any condition. Static IP, public IP. I mean, what are the static public IP which you create? Those are chargeable. The public IPs which are coming along with the VM when you create, those are not chargeable. Okay, guys. So we'll meet tomorrow. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, in the way, I'll try to do that. I'll just give a recap of yesterday's session also, like a previous day session. Just a recap for 5 minutes. From tomorrow onwards, I'll do that. Thank you. Have a nice day. Nice evening. Bye.